Hi everybody, and welcome to The Oldish TV. My name is Karen Brown. I'm the publisher and editor of The Oldish, and as you can see today, I'm in a different place. I've been on a bit of a road trip this week, and I thought I'd share my view with you. So back here is a lake and a harbor, and over here is the rest of the harbor and some fancy-dancy houses that are out there. I thought you might like to look at that since it's July, and I can share a bit of my road trip with you. As I have been on this road trip this week, I have been giving a lot of thought to my possessions, the things that fill my home, which is a home I've lived in for 25 years. It's not unlike a lot of our readers and viewers. We've all lived in our homes a long time, raised our families. There comes a time when you have to decide whether it's time to sell your house. And what are you going to do with all this stuff? Now, Marie Kondo has a very different philosophy about it. You know, she just tackles it and picks all the stuff and sorts it and does it very quickly, I think all within the space of a few days. I can't do that. I really can't do that. That's, the thought of doing that is really overwhelming to me. So I've been looking at other kinds of philosophies about how to deal with possessions. And, I've seen a lot of people dealing with it in different ways. Going into one room at a time and doing up that one room. I think that even that is a bit overwhelming for me, to think of taking care of one room a week or one room in a few days. It's too much. The philosophy I think I like a little better is the one that has been espoused by people who take it a possession at a time. You go into a room and you pick up 1, 2, 3, 5 objects, not more than that really, not much more than 5. Whatever you feel you can handle, because some things might be bigger and have more memories attached to them, but you go into a room, you choose a few things, and you decide what value they have and what place they have in your life as you move forward. It's interesting how it takes you back a little bit when you look at certain objects. Pardon the hair flying in my face. You know, this is lake weather. There we go. Get it all out of my hair. Anyway, it's interesting the process that you can go through. Just remembering. And I think that with some things I'd have to just sit for a few minutes and allow it to be remembered in its context for the past of my life. Ultimately, though, the idea is that you decide whether this article, one at a time, has value in your life moving forward. If it does, you put it back where it came from. If it doesn't have value, then you choose to give it to an adult child or a grandchild. You donate it to the church bazaar or the hospital auction, or you take it someplace to be recycled. Habitat for Humanity has their stores where you donate things to them and they sell them, and the proceeds go to support building more homes. The restores, they're called. That might be an idea as well. I find that way of going through things a lot less overwhelming. So I think I'm going to have to start doing that. When I get back home, I'm going to have to start looking at things and commit to dealing with a few things every day. That kind of feels good to me. You will see an article that we have published talking about downsizing and dealing with possessions. It was just a couple days ago. So it talks about how going through that process is actually good for your cognitive ability. It takes the stress out of your life as well. So if you are dealing with somebody who has a cognitive impairment, maybe they are starting down the path to some form of dementia, This might be a good exercise to go through with them, because we all know that the short-term memory is the first to go, but the longer memories stay with us. Going through a house, item by item, with that person might actually pull up some stories, family stories that you didn't know about. So I could see where that could be a really interesting exercise to go through. A good way to put in some time, a good way to pull memories to the surface, and a good way to declutter the home in the process. How does that sound to you? Is that something you could do? You know, I've said on this show before that I well remember when my grandmother passed away, my mother and her sister took 3 months to go through the house because my grandparents had never thrown a darn thing away. They moved into that house the day they were married. They were married for over 50 years when my grandfather passed, and it was a few more years before my grandmother had an event. She broke some bones, and she wasn't able to go back to that house. The doctor said no, because it was a 2-story house. Really, she couldn't manage it, and she was quite an elderly person by that point in her life. So they moved her into long-term care, and then my mother and her sister set about taking that house apart and getting it ready to be sold so that the capital from the house could go to support my grandmother's continued rent in the long-term care facility. And it was just brutal. I remember as a child going down the stairs to the basement, and on the way down on the stairs, every little nook and cranny had something in it, something that I suppose they thought they were going to use at some point in time. That was the mentality of that age group. You know, people who lived through the war saved everything. They fixed, they recycled, they used again. They didn't throw stuff away. And believe me, nothing was thrown away in this house. And you know, I think I'm, to some extent, a little bit guilty of that in my house, although it's not nearly as cluttered as my grandmother's house was. I haven't really thrown things away. I've stopped acquiring at the rate that I was. And my children have moved away from home, so I'm certainly not acquiring on their behalf. But there's a lot of stuff in that house, and if I ever wanted to downsize, that would really be something. I mean, I go down to the basement to change the furnace filter, and I look around and I think, oh, crap, there's stuff down here too. You know, there's not that much. It's not, I don't have a house that has a livable basement, but there are boxes down there of things. Not gonna lie, there are boxes. Anyway, you can read the article about how going through your possessions in your home can actually be good for your cognitive health. I'll leave that with you. You will see an article coming up in a day or two on theoldish.com that deals with gardens. How many of you have gardens that you have landscaped with great care over the years? I know I do. I can't claim credit for the landscaping. It was done for me, but I value my garden. And there are a few plants in there that we put there, we being my family. And when it was landscaped, these were very special plants that had to be incorporated into the design. So they're there. But you know, for many people who have landscaped over the decades, there are special plants. Maybe plants that your mother's mother, or even your mother's mother's mother, contributed to that garden, whether they knew it or not. And every time you're weeding and you come upon that plant, it reminds you of your mother or your grandmother. It reminds you perhaps of a plant that you and your children planted together, a tree that has now grown tall, or a shrub that has now reached some level of maturity. And it's very special. It makes you smile. I certainly have plants like that in my garden. So there will be an article coming up that talks about how to deal with these very special plants. There are some good ideas. So I don't want to ruin the article for you, but I kind of know what's coming. And our writer, Heather Muir, is writing this. And she, when I sent the article to her, she wrote me back and she said yes, that she definitely has plants in her garden that remind her of her mother. So, you know, I think many of us can relate to that sort of a story. So it's not just the things inside your house that you want to deal with and that you have fond memories of. There are things in your garden outdoors that you can't walk away from because you're so emotionally attached to them. So keep an eye on that. But I would really appreciate it if our viewers could share with us some of the tricks that they have to dealing with things in the house, how you deal with things that are special mementos. You know, I think your pictures, the years and years of pictures, are perhaps one of the hardest to deal with. These days we have computers and digital cameras, so they all get downloaded to a computer or to a hard drive. I'm talking about the prints, the things that you have that are 4x6s and 5x7s. I have some oil paintings that a cousin of mine did, who has long since passed. She was a cousin 2 or 3 times removed, and she was an artist, and she painted some oil paintings. There's one that she did for me when I was a little girl, and it's a teddy bear and a rocking horse, and I treasure that. It was over my bed, and I still have it, and I don't see myself recycling it. But I have some of her other paintings, and it's been suggested to me that I take a digital image of those paintings and then get rid of them, so that I will still have the painting. They're not paintings that I will hang in my house. So I kind of don't want to lose the memory of her, but kind of feel guilty about just throwing them away. Beyond the teddy bear, I'll keep the teddy bear. Maybe my grandchildren will end up with the teddy bear. They will be that much less attached to it because they didn't know the artist, at least not the way I did. So anyway, I would really appreciate it if you would share some of your tips and tricks with me and with each other, so that we can maybe approach the journey of downsizing a little bit together. I'm going to continue on my road trip. I'm going to be leaving this beautiful spot tomorrow, so I will be actually on the road when it is Wednesday at 12 noon. So not gonna lie, I'm recording this for you because I will be on the road, but I sure didn't want to miss my time with you and miss leaving a thought with you that perhaps you could chew on a bit and add some comments, have a bit of a discussion. So please do that. Please share your tips and tricks and things that you may have done, or things that you're planning on doing or considering doing, and maybe together we'll come out with some more efficient ways of taking care of all of this. So there you go, people. There's our show for this week, and I hope you're doing well. Please do share this with your friends and see what they think of it. I mean, maybe you've got some friends who aren't attached to the oldish yet, and I would certainly hope that they would be. Until we meet again next week, please do take care of one another, and please do remember that it takes a village to age a senior. And we will see you again next week, everybody. Bye for now from the lake.